This video is about what is the actual ownership and use experience on the B580 like. So I've already talked about, should you buy a B580? Who should buy a B580? What are the limitations? That kind of stuff. I've done other videos on that already. This isn't about that. This is for people that have already decided, okay, the B580 is the thing for me. What's it like to own the thing? So the reason why I have my 4090 here, this is not a flex. I have the 4090 and the B580 is because I want you to understand I've used as good as it gets, and I've used, I don't want to say as bad as it gets, but you feel me. So honestly, this really, it's interesting because not a single game, every game that I played on the B580 was was playable. Okay, not just playable, but looked good. So I just uploaded 7 or 8 videos onto my channel, standalone videos of various different games. Yes, it's true. Some of those games I had to run, for example, Hogwarts Legacy was a good example. Hogwarts Legacy, I had to run it at low setting to hit a really consistent, decent, smooth frame rate. But the interesting thing was that the actual visual difference between the 4090 and what I was able to see out of this, it wasn't that big. I really didn't think it was. It was definitely not enough. It was definitely not enough to compromise the gameplay experience. So, Hogwarts on the A580 at low settings. So we ran it at low settings, 1440p. The general, I like to say the general experience was there. So it looked good enough that it did not compromise what I believe the developer wanted the game to look like to the player, right? So in the past, you would have games, Crysis is a pretty good example, where you turn it down so low that the settings would just be, it would just look like a different game. These newer games, especially if you're able to run at, say, 1440p or higher, it's just not the case anymore. A lot of these newer games, they look pretty good at their lower setting. The same was the case with Jedi Survivor. Again, I had to run it at lower settings to get a consistent, smooth frame rate, but it didn't look that bad. So this video card costs upwards of, what, 10? Nearly 8 times, something like 8 times what this costs. I mean, that's a lot of money, right? And I don't actually think, like, I love playing with this stuff, okay? I'm not going to say what some people, NVIDIA is ripping people off. They're not ripping people off. It's that that extra last bit of performance always costs a ton more money. Going from baseline to something like this, it's just really expensive to do. However, if you buy something like this, and there's a bunch of products that are going to fit in this price range, or in this kind of this situation. So you got the B580, the 3060, the 4060, a used 3070, Radeon 6700, 6700 XT, 66, well, that's not so much 667, but like 7600, 7700. These mid-range cards, these like $500 and down cards, getting to like where this is, where the B580 is at $250. I'm telling you, you've got to sit there and lie to yourself that you have to have this setting level to not have fun with the games. I am sorry, I have to say that though. I've tested so many video cards over the last several months. Now that I, test video cards for fun, I've tested so many video cards with so many systems. This is why I'm not buying a 5090, at least not immediately, not at initial MSRP. I can afford it if I really wanted one. I've got the money. I can go buy one if I want one. But I just am not seeing the point anymore. When you watch the videos I did with the B580, To be honest, this is more interesting than a 4090. We know what a 4090 can do, okay? We know that you can pop a 4090 in your 13th, 14th gen, your Ryzen 9800 X3. You can pop that 4090 in and it's going to rock your world, okay? I'm not going to sit here and lie to you like some of the people that do. They're like, "Oh, you don't need a 4090." It's nice, it really is, but this is nice too. So, I hope that kind of gives you an idea. You're not going to find, at least from what I found, even at 1440p, you're not going to find any games that this cannot make you happy on. You're really not. And I did not find a single game, as I've said already, that running on the 4090, that the Arc B580 could not give me an experience as a 4090 user that I was not able to satisfy myself with. That's the bottom line here. Now, whether or not the B580 is the best value you can get for $250, that's a different discussion. But if you buy this card for $250, there's just so few situations where this card can't make you happy. I really say go for it. Either this, a 4060, a 3060, any of those low-end cards, honestly, unless you're an enthusiast, man, with how cheap these cards are, and low-end cards, when you get stuff that's ultra-low cost from the beginning, because it's so low price to begin with, sometimes they'll hold their value pretty well compared to their initial retail. So I would strongly recommend that you buy a card like this and pop it in your system before buying something like the 4090 and going all out, just to see if you can make yourself happy. So that's my opinion. I know I rambled a little bit on this one, but I just want to get through people's heads that I think what we can do on video, as far as what they can make a game look like, I really think unless they make a big jump from where we are today, I feel like they're, at least currently, with what the current graphics tech can do, with what the current software tech can do, I think we're hitting kind of a limit, at least for now. Even if you look at Cyberpunk 2077 and you compare it to something like, say, Crysis 3 from 12 years ago, it's not as much better as you would think. Like, they do all this marketing, they throw all these features in. We got ray tracing, we got upscaling, we got DLSS, we got all this fancy graphics tech, and it's not as much better as they say. And so, yeah, some of these games are even requiring performance for no good reason. That's a totally different discussion, but that's my experience with the B580. Never was I unable to find a setting level and a frame rate level that this could make me happy on if I couldn't afford this. So take away what you will with that, but that's my opinion. Thanks for watching.